Okay. So let me introduce you, right? Okay. So this next company is at the forefront of building and designing classic electric cars. They strip the car to bare bones and redesign and rebuild the car bolt by bolt back up with an electric motor. I think they do a fantastic job. I've been following you for just over a year, probably around about that. Been watching your posts of your Jaguar. Is it an XK120?
That's correct. Yeah.
Your Rolls-Royces, your Range Rovers. I love what you do. I can see the quality in the jobs you do. Please welcome James Warren from Lunaz.
Delighted to be on. Thanks so much for having us.
How you doing?
Yeah, really good, really good. Just saying, the sun's shining. We're building beautiful cars. What's there to complain about?
Yeah, nothing, is there? Nothing. So, what's your role in the company, and what does your company do? Tell my listeners. I know what you do. I've been following you for a long time, but what do you do?
Well, look, we're in the business of the restoration, re-engineering, and electrification of really what we deem as the most sort of significant cars, the most celebrated cars in history. That is very much a labour of love born out of, I suppose, our founder's love of classic cars. He spent an awful lot of time building a beautiful collection of fantastic cars. And unfortunately, like every classic car owner, and I'm sure many of your listeners will be among them, probably spend a little bit too much time by the side of the road waiting for recovery, which, it's very charming, but it's very charming until in his case, he had a young daughter, Luna, who the company's named after, and he broke down in a car with her in it, and he said, look, something's got to be done. Something's got to be done to address probably the three key questions that surround classic car ownership, and that's usability, reliability, and of course in the future, sustainability. And I think just while he was having that moment by the side of the road, kind of asked himself, look, what can I do to make sure that my daughter's going to want to drive one of these on her wedding day, or is going to want one of these when she's 18, 19, 20 years old? And the answer was electrification, and the answer was taking these things, re-engineering them, really furthering their legacy, and actually just trying to build the ultimate driver's classic, something that could be driven and enjoyed every day. And that's really what's led us here. In terms of my role in the company, it's my privilege to kind of straddle two camps, really. I mean, number one, I talk to fantastic people like you all the time, sort of promoting the message of the company, educating people on what we're doing, whether that's in the media or elsewhere. But also I get to work with our fantastic customers, and these are a diverse group, fascinating people, sometimes what you expect, sometimes entirely different. But it's an absolute joy to work with them, to realize, these beautiful dreams for them, these beautiful classic cars that they can enjoy every day. So it's a real privilege to work with Lunaz. Yeah.
So how did it all start? How did it all start out?
Well, it was a chap called David Lorenz, who's the founder of the company. He's just running around at the moment, testing a vehicle as we speak. He's very, very hands-on. And look, he made some success in life in the sort of the hospitality business. And as I say, that allowed him to start to indulge his love of classics and, start to build a little bit of a modest collection. And exactly that, he found he wanted to drive these things every day, as we all do. They're the most beautiful objects in the world, but they just don't fit into kind of modern life. And particularly, in his case, when he had young Luna, who the company's named after, suddenly those kind of issues of reliability, usability, practicality, and of course, sustainability, start to play on your mind. So David went sort of, kind of blank sheet of paper and said, look, what is it I can do to electrify these cars? What is it I can do to further the legacy of these vehicles? And very fortunately, he met with a gentleman called John Hilton. Now, the Formula One fans among you and the real sort of engineering heads among you will know John as he was the technical director for Renault Formula One. So he was the man who won Fernando Alonso his double world titles. He's got the very, very auspicious honor of being the last technical director to win in the V10 era and the first in the V8 era. So what John doesn't know about powertrains isn't worth knowing at all. He also went into Le Mans, and he was the leader of the first Le Mans hybrid entry. And then following that, set up a company, an amazing business called Flybrid, which you might remember, the kinetic energy recovery system technology that was drawn from Formula One. He was looking at ways of exploiting that for more mainstream road car use.
Okay.
So after quite a successful exit from that, David met with John. John was kind of ready to maybe work on another project, maybe not. And David said, "Look, that brain of yours is too big not to go and do something really involved." So David and John got together. John's our managing director and very much our technical lead, and David looks after sort of the commercial sides of the business. And together they've drawn in the most amazing team of people. You know, our design director I was just chatting to now, I mean, she's from Aston Martin Q branch. I'm from Rolls-Royce. That's my background. We've got technicians out there from Bentley, McLaren, Jaguar Land Rover. I mean, we talk about us being in Silverstone. This is the access that we get to this amazing talent. And all of that means that we really are building cars to the most sort of extraordinary quality. We're taking them through this restoration, re-engineering and conversion sort of process with the very best practitioners in the world. And it's just an amazingly energetic, fantastically knowledgeable, talented team that are realizing these incredible dreams.
Yeah, because what I've noticed with your team is that they all seem, it almost seems very clean and precise. Your workshop, from the photos that I've seen, looks very clinical, very kind of almost like you're building a spacecraft, because that's how clean we are in the space industry. We have a clean workshop. The floors are immaculate. The staff are all immaculate all the time. Tools have a place, but what I notice about the engineering side of things as well is you can tell this is not a company with a technician who has not had that much training, who comes from, I don't know, a backstreet garage somewhere. You can see these guys are really good at what they do. I did notice that you are on a different level, and we'll go into that in a little bit more detail, because I want to know what the steps are from when a car's ordered. Roughly, you don't have to tell me your shop secrets. So how does a car get ordered? So is it they buy an existing car that you've got in stock, or do they say, I want to order an electric, I don't know, X-type Jaguar, for example, instead of a XK120? How does that work?
Well, look, I think the first thing, you're absolutely right to observe from, our Instagram and the press work that we've done, and the films and the kind of photography that we've created. It is an incredibly clean, quite high tech, or very high tech environment. Really, Lunaz is in the business of two things. Number one is world-class level restoration, right? And that requires a very traditional skill set. These are masters of their art. They're masters of body restoration. You should see the leather guys working away, whether that's on a traditional kind of cowhide leather or an animal-friendly leather. It's just mesmerizing to watch these craftsmen at play, or craftspeople. So you've got that side of the business, but then, as I say, John with his background, has drawn just this most incredible talent base. And, Ian, for example, our production manager, our head of production, his last gig before Lunaz was running the P1 hypercar car line for McLaren. Right. So you imagine that environment. So suddenly all of that experience, all of that kind of that institutional knowledge that comes from building the very best examples of what those particular cars can do come to benefit Lunaz. And I think it just creates this most amazing sort of, it's almost kind of where creativity and engineering meet a little bit. Artisanal skills and very high-tech skills meet. Then you throw in the proprietary electric powertrain element. So you're absolutely right to observe that. It is quite a unique engineering environment. And really, that leads me to say, at its very heart, Lunaz is an engineering company. We have developed a modular, scalable, proprietary electric powertrain that can be applied across multiple marques. So in answer to your question around what's the process, how does it work in terms of the selection and ultimately the delivery of a car, we build in production runs. That makes sense. That's what we know as the very best way to ensure a fair price point, number one, because you're you're obviously spreading the quite significant development cost across a limited run of cars. We're not in the business of pushing volume. You know, we don't want our customers seeing their neighbors driving one of these things. They are still very special and unique, but we do productionize. So, you know, at the beginning of every year, we will release a certain tranche of production for next year's delivery of the marks that we produce. And those at the moment are the Jaguar XK120, 140, 150. I mean, to my mind, and I'm sure we can get into a big debate about this, it's a great pub debate. I think the most beautiful British sports car ever made, you know, and some people might not agree, but
it comes close on my list as well. Yeah.
It's just beautiful. So we make that in both the fixed head roadster, fixed head coupe format, and of course the convertible roadster. And it's very interesting to see the profiles of different customers around the world who pick which. We then make the classic Range Rovers. We announced those in December time. I think that's probably when you reached out to us. And my God, they have been so successful. You know, you always know when customers or potential customers are knocking on your door asking you to do something, just how loved that car is as probably the definitive British SUV. You know, the original, it's the daddy, you know, whatever you want to call it. And the global response has just been so warm. And as I say, from almost parts of the world that you wouldn't expect would have the same affinity for that particular vehicle. We then make the Rolls-Royces, of course. So we start with the Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud. You know, to my mind, just this beautiful, you can drive, you can be driven in it. It's a continental car if you want it to be. It's a beautiful kind of long-legged tourer, or it's a beautiful car for a hotel to go and buy and have their customers sit in the back of. And then at the very sort of top of that market, we make the Phantom 5, which is really just the most kind of impressive. You know, it's that expression of that great phrase about Rolls-Royce. It is the best car in the world. And the first car that we brought out in the sort of the Phantom 5 line was an 8-seat limousine. You know, it is just the most incredible thing. And it's capturing the imagination, even in these quite difficult times for the industry. It's capturing the imagination of institutions, hospitality establishments around the world who want to say a lot about their brands, and they want to say, you know, project themselves as being a progressive brand that's thinking about sustainability, that's thinking about cleaner powertrains, that's thinking about upcycling something rather than buying new. But also from a pragmatic standpoint, if you're a beautiful hotel in Paris, you know by 2030, 2035, that your limousine fleet is going to have to go to electric vehicle anyway because of the legislative hostility. So I think from that point of view, we've really captured the imagination of institutions that want to future-proof themselves. So in terms of the process to commissioning one of these cars, or in essence, acquiring one of these build slots, we will speak to customers very directly. It'll be me or David, almost speaking, particularly in these kind of strange times, over Zoom, over WhatsApp video call, whatever it is. They're dotted all over the world. And we'll talk them through the different options. They've usually got a good idea in mind of what they want. These are very emotive vehicles. You know, you might have a sort of pre-existing relationship, and in almost every case we will go and source the donor car. So we have a global network of auction houses, of dealers, of private collectors that we know. We've been in and around classic cars a very long time, and we know where the cars are sort of dotted around the world. We then bring that donor to the United Kingdom, to Silverstone, and this is where really the art of the restorer kicks in. Every single car by Lunaz goes through a bare metal restoration process.
So is this a working car, James? Sorry to cut you off. Is this a working car, or is it a car that the engine's no good and you just chuck the engine away, or how does that work?
We take it very case by case. So look, our preference is always to look at the fundamentals of that car. As much as every single car goes through a bare metal restoration, we're incredibly aware that we're creating an upcycled product. So, you know, what we want to do is go through the restoration process as sensitively as possible to that. However, we're so stringent in terms of quality. If a part cannot be restored, then we will fabricate something new. So more often than not, those cars are sort of running cars, but they're cars that are, you know, probably not in that sort of concourse condition, because we're going to take take these cars through restoration anyway. What this approach allows us to do, we thought very carefully about this, incidentally. Rather than building to stock, as many luxury car companies might do. Our preference was very much to inject the customer into the process. Yeah. And this is where, as I say, we have the most amazing design director in Jen Holloway. Jen's drawn from Aston Martin Q branch. She's done amazing things with Jaguar Land Rover, and worked on projects all across the kind of spectrum of luxury goods as well as just sort of car design. Yeah. And really, it's at that point, it's this kind of very nice collaborative process that exists between us as Lunaz, Jen as the sort of the design chief, and the customer, in terms of understanding what their tastes are like. What does their apartment look like? What do their other vehicles look like? Yeah. It might be matched to a boat or whatever it is. And really sort of drilling down on the materiality that we can offer. As I say, we don't just make traditional leather interiors. We can look at animal-friendly interiors. Yeah. Looking at the exterior colorways, all of that kind of stuff. Looking at how we can sensitively integrate the tastes of the customer into that very, very kind of classic aesthetic. So that's a really thrilling, absorbing, collaborative part of the journey that our customers absolutely delight in. At that point, the car then goes into a long stage of restoration, re-engineering, and then ultimately the conversion. And this re-engineering point's really, really important. We didn't just want to convert classic vehicles, tidy them up a little bit, off they go. We thought very carefully about this usability point. Our entire mission is about furthering the legacy of these cars and making sure that they're seen, they're driven, they're felt, they're enjoyed, you're able to turn the key without any kind of hesitation. So that re-engineering process, that's when we uprate to power steering. We place air conditioning in the car. Any classics person will know just how uncomfortable you can be in these things when you're out on a beautiful sunny day, particularly in warmer parts of the world. We very subtly integrate infotainment screens. So these, in the Rolls-Royce, they're hidden behind the picnic tables. So we're not taking away from that classic aesthetic. But of course, people's kids in the back, whatever it might be, you want to use Apple CarPlay. You want to be able to use your sat-nav of choice. We were able to do that. We uprate the audio system, so you've got the most amazing kind of surround sound experience. And then, of course, we uprate the brakes and suspension and just make the thing a much more drivable, usable proposition. And I think that's the gift we give these customers, that you have the beauty of this classic car, but you can use it every day. And that to us is, typifies that approach of furthering the legacy, making sure these things are driven and seen. Because we all love seeing a classic car, right? Oh, yeah. And we have a role to play, I think, in just giving you that moment. I still phone a mate if I see a particular interesting classic car, like rolling in St. James's in London or something like that. And I'm far too old to be doing that, but they do something to us. They have a place in the culture beyond the sum of their parts. And we really fundamentally believe in the preservation of them. So that's the process. We then have a fantastic kind of handover experience. Customers invited all throughout the process to come and see us at Silverstone. We've got a very open door policy when conditions allow, of course. They come and test drive, or we go and deliver to their local market, wherever that might be in the world. So it really is. It's a very bespoke process. It's a very personal process, but it's one that can absolutely be scaled. So it's fascinating.
Okay. So say I wanted to order an XK120 from you. What ballpark figure are we talking about?
So an XK120, so assuming in the UK, because of course we've got to think about local taxes, an XK120 starts at around £295,000. So look, it's at the higher end of the price bracket, but we make no apology for that. We very much set out when we set up the company. David almost said to the engineering team, not here's a kind of blank sheet of paper and here's a blank check, go and make the ultimate car. But don't compromise. We believe there is a market, and we've seen there is a market for people that want a exhaustively restored, exquisitely finished electric classic vehicle. So you've almost got to look at, the price points of the resto mod guys in Singer, the amazing work that they go and do over in California with Porsche. It's like that level of restoration plus the re-engineering plus the conversion. So at that sort of price, we certainly find a market, and that allows us to, as you so kindly said, build to such quality and really execute correctly.
Yeah. So when you do you redesign any part of the car in terms of like underneath, like the shell and stuff? I mean, you don't have to. You don't have to tell me secrets, but
I don't want to reveal too much of the secret sauce. But the absolute key is again, maintaining the authenticity, maintaining the spirit of the original wherever possible. And of course, there's engineering concession you have to make to the fact that you're taking an engine out, you're putting a battery pack in, and that's a very different drivetrain. There's not transmission in the way that there traditionally was, but that's very much worked out by John. And John's background in Formula One, as much as he's a powertrains genius, he has to be a packaging genius as well. Because you move 1 gram over there in a Formula One car, the whole balance can get upset, right? So this is where drawing these guys, these amazing engineers from the worlds of motorsport, and I think between them they've won multiple Formula One World Championships and Le Mans and all sorts of different things. That they are so perfectly placed to understand the kind of the packaging side of things. And this is where the very beginning of the process is a full 3D scan of the car to understand where that weight is, where that dynamic is, and where you need to place components in order to ensure the sort of the integrity of the car. So from that side there are re-engineering points, but less than you'd think, I'd say. It's much more about that bare metal restoration, taking it back to its very essence, making sure that it's built on solid foundations, and then overlaying all of that kind of that beauty over the top.
Because I mean, I don't know if there's quite a few competitors out there, not on your level, but one thing that comes to mind is if say I was to buy a car from you and I wanted to go back to the original combustion engine, could I do that?
Yeah, look, yes, it's quite simply, and the engines and transmissions remain the property of the customer. Do we anticipate that that's going to be requested? I highly doubt it. No. Our customers, these tend not to be their only vehicles. In that sense, they tend to be not necessarily existing classics owners, because kind of a lot of the point of what we're doing is we're bringing people into classics ownership for the first time. But I as I say, I don't anticipate a huge amount of demand for that. But look, from that point of view, anything's possible. Yeah.
Because I was looking at, I don't know if you heard of this company, I think they're in California as well, Bisimoto.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
Bisimoto, yeah. He converts Porsches, and he gives you, I think he gives you the option of the engine stays with the customer, and then once you're finished with electric, if you want to go back to combustion engine, we'll just slip that back in. And so that's a nice thought. And so, what are your current projects at the moment? What's being worked on inside the factory at the moment?
Wow. Well, you're talking to, when does this go out?
This will be about 3 weeks' time, I'd say.
Brilliant, perfect. Yeah. Well, that in that case, I can let you in on a little secret. We've overgrown our space, which is fantastic. So we're currently in the fit out sort of stage for a facility that's 5 times bigger than our existing one. It's just over the road in Silverstone. It's the most incredible, very high tech new facility here on the Silverstone Technology Park. It's got a fantastic view. Incidentally, it overlooks the Hamilton Straight Club Corner and the podium. So at the moment, I'm calling it's the 80,000 square foot executive box for the Grand Prix. And look, let's all dance a dance and hope that fans are going to be allowed there in July, which by the sound looking reasonably promising. So look, we right now in the factory, before we move, we've got Bentleys going on at the minute. That's hugely exciting. We'll talk about Bentleys in a little moment on the Continental side, because I didn't put them in that original list. We've got a number of Range Rovers. I mean, look, as I say, the Range Rover just hugely captured the imagination, and we've been delighted to see lots of different cars from different eras of the classic era, and that's presenting some really interesting sort of challenges and opportunities, but also just creating the most kind of like diverse portfolio of cars. It's very vibrant in there at the moment from that point of view. Rolls-Royce Phantoms, we announced those back in the summer of last year, which you would think sort of globally would be a not such a good time with the height of the pandemic going on. We actually found the contrary. It was really interesting from the point of view that, you know, I think people had some time, you know, had some time to think about their habits, think about the way that they indulge their love of fine objects, whether that's cars, whether that's pieces of art, whatever it is. And also, you know, I spoke to so many customers around the world who said, you know, right in the heights of the lockdown, said, my God, I can hear the birds sing in New York, you know. I can see the sea from Griffith Park in Los Angeles, you know, I can see the pink moon in London. It gets you kind of thinking about rebalancing your collection, rebalancing your behavior a little bit for this clean air future. So, you know, we announced that car in the summer. It got an extraordinary response, and you know, it's a mixture between kind of private collectors and as I say, hospitality institutions, which is much more anticipated on the hospitality side. But individuals want them as well as their sort of town cars, or you know, their kind of family chauffeured cars. So we got the Phantoms going on, a couple of Jaguars always. I mean, they just remain so sort of perennially popular, and you know, right now we're just kind of finalizing allocation on production days for spring next year. So people are thinking, particularly with the convertibles, when the weather's getting warmer, the world's open, you know, what a better thing to kind of arrive with a bow on it for the start of the warmer months. So we've got a real range of stuff going on, and then on the other side of it, as I say, moving into the new facility, really because demand dictated we had to. I mean, we have outgrown our existing place. Our business has grown at an extraordinary pace, which has been fantastic, and you know, we seem to have really caught a mood, and we seem to have, you know, answered probably latent demand for a way that people can indulge a love of these beautiful cars, these beautiful marks. And you know, let me not forget, and I don't want to be too pointed about this, we are the first electric Bentley to the market. You know, we are the first electric Range Rover to the market, pure electric. You know, and that's,
are these four-wheel drive? Are they remaining four-wheel drive cars?
Yes, you can have them in either configuration.
Okay.
So we split them between town and country. Town much more focused on the rear seat, sort of comfort, a bit more of a limousine. Country up front, bashing around in the mud.
Okay. And what's the range on the Range Rover then?
Around 200 miles or so, usable.
200 miles.
We don't quote crazy figures, you know.
Yeah. Because a lot of the car companies at the moment, they're quoting 100 miles. And you only get 70 out. Like, well, why don't you do proper tests? Yeah, road test after road test, and then say the real figure. Why are you lying about it? You know, and diesels are the same. You know, my car's supposed to do 70 miles to a gallon, and I get 55 out of it. Sure.
No, I mean, it's always been a perennial question, hasn't it? And I think look, the important thing when pioneering, I say we're pioneering, I mean, the notion of electric vehicles has obviously been around a very long time, but you know, to our mind it's simple. I wouldn't want to comment on anyone else. It's you know, we know our ranges because, you know, our founder used the XK120 or using the XK120 almost as a daily driver. So it's a real world test in that he comes up and down from West London to Silverstone in it. You know, he does those miles in every form of weather. And that is our testing, that is our user case. So we feel very comfortable quoting those figures. And it's right, people should trust what we're saying.
Yeah. So what do you think the future is for electric vehicles? Because there's talk of hydrogen as well taking over.
Yeah, look, clearly that's very interesting. Look, you know, the bottom line is the world requires a clean air future. You know, it's you know, that is not news. Legislators are clearly, you know, governments across the world are clearly legislating very hard for that. And you've only got to look at Britain, for example. I mean, we brought forward the ban on the sale of new internal combustion engine vehicles. You know, what's it cost to drive a diesel into central London these days? I mean, it's 30 quid, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's very clear that alternative powertrains are the future. Right now, electric is the developed technology. It's the technology that can deliver the key sort of point of usability, the range. There's the infrastructure there that's getting rapidly built, and that is the powertrain certainly sort of for the medium term. Obviously, hydrogen's very interesting, and look, certainly as that develops, we will we will explore it in the same way that we have EV. But look, our focus is very much, and I think the entire industry's focus is very much on the march to electric powertrains. And I mean, they are incredible. Let's not forget, we don't lose anything. We gain. It's instant torque. They're silent. They're clean air. They're reliable. All of the oily moving parts are gone. You can enjoy them every day without having to think about it. It's an exciting future. We should be fired up for it, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I would be definitely trying to order one of your cars if you could make it sound like it's got a combustion engine inside it. Because that's my bugbear with electric cars at the moment, is that they don't need to sound like a combustion engine, but we're so used to that, you know, we've been brought up on it.
It's the strangest thing. We of course, you know, we expected all of those sort of objections. And actually, we engineered provision for, we'd be very upfront about it, we engineered provision for what's called augmented sound. So you can basically, through the speakers, a distant sort of disparate V10 rumble can plug away in your ear as you go through the revs. Nobody wants it. As soon as they test drive the thing, there's something about the silence. There's something calming about it. There's something. It's replaced by interaction with the road, a more sort of visceral feeling you get through the steering wheel. It's, you know, our brains adapt to different kind of stimulation, and it's I've got to say, whenever I spend time in one of these cars, it feels so odd to then go back into an internal combustion.
Really? Okay.
It feels almost sort of, I mean, look, I love cars. Like I love all forms of cars. I love traditional classics, and, you know, we're not in the business of taking every internal combustion vehicle off the road. But it does feel almost sort of archaic and analog versus digital, and just very strange to kind of go back to it. So, you know, all I'd say is I just encourage you, come up and drive a car. And I swear to you, you'll never ask us to augment the sound. There's just something about it, you know.
I was saying to my wife earlier, I says, this lockdown has created opportunities for me to get hold of people who are not bored, but kind of just want to fill their doubt with positive things and talking to people. So that's good. But on the flip side of it is, I want a video. I would have loved to come to your factory and video and talk to you face to face, meet you, shake your hand, have a look at the car, possibly go for a test drive, you know, all these things, you know. But hopefully in the future we'll definitely meet up. I'm a big fan of your brand.
Thank you.
I do like what you're doing, and I like all of those cars that you're working on at the moment, and I would definitely have all of those in my collection if I had the money. But
every time, build more spaceships.
Every time I save to get a classic car, the money somehow disappears towards my wife's direction, and it's either another baby or a property or something like that. So your cars then, are they? When was the first one sold, and what is the appreciation of value of them?
Well, look, so in terms of we really opened order books, I mean, 2020, kind of beginning of last year. I mean, 2019 was really a development phase. We started talking to customers, but we really opened order books fully at the beginning of last year. And look, we don't really discuss numbers out of respect for our customers. They prefer we don't. But look, put it this way: we're currently allocating production for kind of late spring next year, which is you know, it's an amazing sort of forward order book. You know, we would encourage people to you know, pick the phone up now, because that will slip into summer and then beyond. You know, we are in a very strong position from a demand point of view.
So there's a waiting list. There is a waiting list.
There is a waiting list. There is. Well, it's just a case of booking a slot. I mean, these things are not the matter of moments, and there's a reality to this, that we don't build stock. You know, these cars are individually tailored for the customer. They are You know, they're very much sort of exactly. So that there is an element of patience that's required, and all we'd say is, look, now's the time to talk to us, because obviously that those lead times, they're certainly not going down at the moment.
Okay, start to finish, what we're talking. So
between 10 months and a year. Between 10 months.
That's
look, it's
reasonable.
not outrageous. It's not, you know, it's not dissimilar to if you, I suppose, you went to Bentley and Crewe and you ordered a real sort of factory specification car of something that was in demand. It was a new model, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You could be waiting that sort of time. Same with Maranello, probably Goodwood as well. You know, or if you were taking a car through a restoration process, we actually speed up that process quite significantly through very smart engineering, restoration and production management. And this is the brilliance of having the guys that we've got there. You know, we take processes that would normally be worked on sort of one after the other, after the other, after the other.
Yeah.
And we productionize that process, so we'll have wood going on at the same time as body rebuild or whatever it might be, and that actually condenses the timeline. So, you know, really that 10 months to a year could be significantly more with the demand we've got at the moment. So
it sounds to me like you've got like a mini production line on the go, and you've got more than one car going at one time. That's right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and this is where, as I say, that, you know, the incredible talent that we've been able to draw, and really, you know, our founders' commitment to going and getting that talent and attracting it. You know, when you've got a production manager whose background is delivering the P1, you know, that is, you couldn't be asking for a better kind of frame of experience. You know, a highly bespoke, high value, no two cars the same, no two cars the same in terms of specification, has to be built to the very high standards. Like, you talk quality control in your world, it's probably inspired by that. You know, it's every part is catalogued and checked again. You know, so that experience has informed, you know, that approach to production, and it you know, it certainly works very well for us. Yeah,
and that's amazing. I mean, so what do you reckon is the future for Lunaz? What's the future holding, do you think?
It's yeah, I mean, it's there's all sorts of exciting things going on, and I'm trying not to give too much away. Look, certainly some really sort of interesting marks coming down the line that we've got in development at the moment. So some more beautiful cars that we'll be beginning sort of production with. But also, you know, what I would ask you to do as an engineer is cast your mind towards, we've built a modular, scalable, proprietary powertrain. The world is moving towards an electric, clean air future. There's 3 billion ICE vehicles on the road at the moment. What's going to happen? You know, and what's the opportunity there? So, without saying too much, but showing you a little bit of leg, you know, there is certainly some very, very exciting things for Lunaz as an engineering entity, as well as Lunaz Design, the beautiful classic cars business. So,
possibly motorbikes or boats?
Could be anything. I won't reveal you anymore.
Yeah, because what I would like to see, this is just a wish list of mine, but I'd like to see, you know, the Italian, those Italian beautiful boats, those wooden...
Revers. Oh my God.
Yeah. One of them with an electric motor in it. That'd be cool.
That'd be special.
That'd be quite cool. But then
talk to a companion uninterrupted. How lovely, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, mate. So look, I'm gonna ask you 3 questions that I normally ask everybody, and we'll start to wind down. So 5-car garage, unlimited value. Go on.
Do you know what? I'd have a Lunaz, Lunaz Range Rover for the country place. I'd have the Phantom 5 for cruising around town. I'd have a Silver Cloud for those special days. I want to blip down to the Riviera and just go for lunch in Nice because I can. XK120 for a drive for an orange juice in a pub on a Sunday afternoon. And the Bentley Continental for your journey up to Scotland. What else can you have? You know, what else do you want? It's the most resolved portfolio imaginable, and it's electric. You know, it couldn't be better.
Yeah. Fair enough. Road trip. Where would you go? Who would you go with? And what car? Oh,
that's a great shout. Do you know what? I'm planning at the moment. I'm I'm a big wine drinker, and that's increased in the lockdown quite a bit. We've all had a bit of time on our hands, so I'm in the process of planning a trip, sort of down to Bordeaux and then across to Burgundy, and it just takes in some pretty beautiful places. And I think for that, because we'd be buying plenty, I'd have my mate Ed. I'd get him to take the Bentley because it's got a nice big boot and he'd enjoy driving it. And then my pal Adrian, my other wine mate, who runs a great company, 81 Artisan, you guys should check out. I'd have him in the Range Rover so we can really move some volume. Both Lunaz versions. I think that'd work perfectly, and we'd cause a bit of a stir down there, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. Last question: reviving a forgotten bankrupt company, car company. What one would you go for? Which one would you bring back?
Oh, that's an amazing question. Do you know, I've always loved Jensen.
Yeah.
I love a Jensen Interceptor.
Ooh, one of my top 5 cars. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Seriously. Yeah. Do you know what? Car friends of mine will kick me because there's probably an opportunity to say something really cool. But do you know what? I've got a real soft spot, and David, I know, will kill me. I've got a soft spot for Triumph, and I'd like a Triumph Spitfire and a Stag to build properly. I'd like to see the modern, a modern take on one of those with an electric powertrain would be very cool. And it's just a cool name, and it's British and brilliant. So those two.
I'll let you into a little secret. I'll build electric Triumphs.
You don't, do you? Really?
Yeah, for kids.
It
wouldn't be for an adult. It's for kids. Yeah. That's
really?
Yeah. I built a TR3. The project started out with just a wish, I wanted to get my little lad into a pedal car, and someone said, "Why don't you put an electric motor in it?" I was like, "That's a good idea." So then I just went and got an electric motor from one of these mobility scooters, put that in there, bolted it in, and I showed. I don't know, was you at the Concourse of Elegance last year?
I didn't make it. I was somewhere else, but sadly, yeah.
So the Concourse of Elegance got in touch with me, and they said, "We hear you're building a Triumph TR3 electric car. Would you like to come and show it at the Concourse Junior?" And I said to my wife, "Is this a mistake?" And she went, "No, I think it's a real email. Look at the email." So I responded. I said, "It's not completely built.
Yeah,
it's not finished." They said, "Don't worry, still bring it." So I brought it along. I turned up, and slightly embarrassing because it was half built, and you could see all the bare bones of the car. And behind me was a Porsche 917, a really nice junior one, which actually won the Concourse of Elegance Junior competition that day. And I parked it up, and I just walked off, and then people were just buzzing around it and talking about it. Had some negatives in there as well, oh, it's not finished and this and that. But I thought, you know what, this year I'm going to finish it, and I'm going to take it back to the Concourse of Elegance and show it off. It just needs some bright work done to it now, and it needs like a bit of a carpet and stuff and things like that. But with me, I'm trying to make it as an original as possible. So the same as the full scale car, but just a half scale model, but with all the details. And it's so difficult because where do you make a Triumph bonnet badge that's half scale? Do you know what I mean?
It's a tough thing. Yeah. How fun though! But look, you're doing important work here. There's a point to this. It's infusing the younger generation in classic cars.
Yeah,
it's we grew up. As kids, we grew up with posters of cars on the wall. I don't know if kids these days are. And look, it's a big part of what we believe in. These things have to be seen, to be loved, to be to be then bought in 20 years' time. It's a really important thing to do. These are part of our culture. They are more significant than just objects. They are pieces of art in that sense. So no, keep going. Like, keep fighting the fight with us.
Oh yeah, I'll be back at the show this year with it, whether it's finished or not. If they invite me back, I'll go and show it again. And I'm not looking to make money out of it. I just built it for my son. Really, that was the main thing. So he could drive an electric car and enjoy that. But your company, let me just tell you something. Your company has, if you draw a line right down the middle of me here, and this side's classic automobiles with a combustion engine, and this side is electric. I'm always on this side, always, yeah. But as soon as I saw Lunaz design, I kind of gone, my foot's gone over that line, because I actually love the XK120. I like the Range Rover as well, and the Rolls-Royces, but the XK120, it gives me something inside. It bubbles me. And I always step back and then step back again. And I love what you're doing. Honestly, it's
Thank you.
Very much appreciated. I'd love to come down eventually and meet you guys. Tell my listeners where they can find your social media and all your information.
No, of course. So website is lunaz.design, and then social media, rather embarrassingly, I'm just going to double check that I'm name checking the right thing, because I will never live it down. It is on Instagram. It's just a simple @Lunaz, LUNAZ design, and we would encourage you to come and follow us, because I'm sure you'll tell them we're forever showing stories inside the factory and real kind of insider stuff. So, as well as beautiful pictures of the final car. So yeah, come and follow us on the journey, see what we're doing, and also watch this space for some really exciting announcements in the coming months about what we're doing next, because it's very exciting.
Definitely. So what I would say is this one's going to go out in about 3 or 4 weeks' time.
Brilliant.
Once it goes out, I'll probably give you another email just to check where you are with projects, and if you want me to, I will put in the show notes all the projects that you're working on and all the social media bits and pieces. So okay, but thanks for your time, appreciate it. Very nice to meet you, James.
Thank you. No, a joy, an absolute pleasure, and thank you to your listeners as well for hearing out